And it was like Friday, and then immediately hung out with like, he was like, come to like, we're down the street, like come to, we're seeing these singer-songwriters, my friends, and I like hung out with his friends. And so I was like, it was just like very hot, very like fast. And I was like,
Yeah.
I like you. I'm obviously having fun. Like, we'll see. And then he calls me the next day and was like, after like pretty much confessing how much he liked me, was like, so I don't think we have a good connection, like whatever, da, da, da. And I was like, oh my God, he just like needed fuel for like a song.
Oh no. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of UnCoupling. We are now at the home edition of my kitchen that I recently just moved into. And today on the program, we have Michael Burke. I love a comedian, and on top of that, I love an improviser. So I want to pick your brain about that before we get into the breakups. But you have amassed millions of followers and views, mainly on TikTok, the TikTok sensation of 2020. And you're known for Every New Yorker in a Rom-Com. And welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited
Yeah.
to be here.
Where are you calling in from? We already talked about this before we started recording, but for the listeners, where are you calling in from?
Currently living in North Carolina. I am in North Carolina.
Lovely.
It's raining, if you can see behind me.
What's your favorite food in North Carolina?
I mean, the Southern food is what they do best. There's a place called like Vicious
Southern
Biscuit.
Guy? Vicious Biscuit?
And they have biscuits and gravy. That's pretty much what they have on the menu.
That's really cute. Vicious Biscuit. Is it like the sausage gravy extravaganzas?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they have, it's like newer, so they have like an Instagram like wall.
Oh, it's a hipster biscuit
it's
place.
Like a hipster place. It's like, which is rare for North Carolina.
I was going to say, I feel like though hipster has been like monetized, like it's homogenized at this point. Like everybody has a hipster. Like you can live anywhere because you can get like niche artisanal food in whatever town now in the USA. It's awesome.
And I'm thankful because I grew up in New York, moved to LA. So I was used to like my coffee shops and like my cute little bites of food for $17, you know?
I was going to say, is there a Marzocco in a stone throw where you are? Do you know the Marzocco espresso machine?
There is one. Yeah, the La Marzocco.
All you need is one.
That's all I need. It's 17 minutes away from me, and I do it multiple times a week.
I would put on an audiobook, and that's like my coffee book drive audiobook to go get my Marzocco. I'm a coffee snob, so I understand.
I worked as a barista. I mean, obviously, I lived in LA, so I was a barista for a period of time.
And so you get it.
These machines are $45,000. What?
I'm still saving up for the individual one.
Yeah, which is still crazy.
It's more than like a Kia car. Like it's not okay. I mean, you can see I use an espresso.
Or good espresso for the rest of your life.
That's why I go to coffee shops, because I have an espresso, and I'm way too old to admit that I have not bought a real espresso machine yet. So that's why I drive. I would make a 17-minute drive. Well, welcome to the program. And I commend you. I would love to like pick your brain at some point about dating in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But what would you say is your biggest breakup? Like what makes you want to come on the show? And we like to break stigmas around things ending. And there's the Instagram feed where you see the love of the life, and then there's just nothing, ghosted. You ghost your followers on like what happened. And we're such an open society in the social media era there's a support group for everything. There's an open conversation for about every topic. But when it comes to breakups, there's still this sort of archaic stigma behind breakups, that it's a bad thing and that it has to be hidden from public views. So tell me a little bit about your breakup history.
I've been in like 3 real-ish relationships. 2 of them were like 6 months, but in the gay world, that's like 3 years.
6 months. Okay.
But I literally am reporting live from an UnCoupling right now, live in action.
Wait, like the breakup happened today?
No, the breakup happened about a month ago. And then I got this email to do the podcast, and I was like, who is leaking information?
Yeah.
You guys were on it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. So wait, was this breakup in North Carolina or long distance?
This was in North Carolina. So currently where I am right now, I'm still in my ex's house.
So you guys are on good terms.
We're on good terms. Yeah. It was like, an emotional roller coaster through and through, but it was a 2.5, almost 3 year relationship. Met him in
Oh,
North
this is not
Carolina.
one of the 6 months then. This is
No,
this is a
this
biggie.
was, yeah, this is a biggie. But,
Now,
so that, yeah.
I was gonna say this is a bit of a stigma, but like we have all orientations on the show, and a lesbian that was on the show was like, if you're not best friends with your ex, like every lesbian is going to somehow at some point recommend their ex-girlfriend to another woman. Is this the scenario happening right now?
That is the scenario. It's definitely
Okay.
giving lesbian besties right now. Um,
Lesbian besties in my you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, no, I know. I have a
Yeah.
Subaru. I think in my heart I'm a lesbian.
I I wish in my heart I was. That is a true. That is a very true fact. Um,
But yeah,
so yeah, so you're
we
so good terms.
we tr- yeah, we're trying to do good. I mean, we are on good terms, and that was the goal. And we had a very like healthy adult. This was like my first real like adult relationship. It was like met when I
Mm-hmm.
was 30. I'm 33 now, and so it was like the first like
Mm.
real like we lived together. We like we played home, like we traveled, we did everything, and it was great. And then it just slowly became like all the things that we had in common, all the things that we liked about each other stayed the same. And then all the things that we had different and all the things that like we didn't have in common or like the little idiosyncrasies kind of kept building. And it became this like, okay, we have a pocket of our friendship that works and the relationship aspect, we do not have the same love languages. Like we're
Mm.
not overlapping in those types of things. And so I called it. I'm very good at maintaining my homeostasis, like throughout
Mm-hmm.
like life, because relationships can knock you off if you're not careful. And we had a very healthy, in-depth conversation. Obviously, I'm still living here. I am moving out in pretty much whenever the carpet gets done in my new house, because then I could put the furniture in. And so we're in this like limbo period. So I feel like a live reporter for this podcast.
You literally look like a live reporter, like live
Like
from
I
North
have the mic.
Carolina. It's great. Yeah. I have so many questions. So, you truly uncoupled. One, you
Hmm.
really are meant to talk on this podcast
Couldn't
because
be more
there's so
qualified
many,
right now.
yeah, viewers going through breakups right now. That's why they're listening to this podcast. But secondly, in that, I think the most adult thing about the relationship. That's funny you say it's your first one because you sure as hell did it well in the sense that I still at 37, if we break up, I have to get out that night. Like I can't wait till the next morning. Like, feel free, I'll sleep in the bed, I'll sleep on the couch. I'm like, no, I have to leave right now. And I have very adult relationships, but I would argue I actually have quite amateur breakups still. Just like my heart can't take like looking at them. So the fact that like you're able to go to bed, wake up and say, I can look you in the face and still be confident with my answer and not cave, so to speak,
Yeah.
um, into
Yeah.
other, you're able to stand in your truth of like this, I love you, but it still doesn't work
Yeah.
is
That
powerful.
was, and that's like the internal monologue, before the obviously and like decision is like, how do I do this? Can I do this? Am I capable
Mm-hmm.
of I even when we had the talk, I was like, hey, I know currently I'm living in your house. Like, if you want me to like go F off, I can, happy to, so we can like process or like, I'm going to be moving. So there'll be like a,
Mm-hmm.
a period of time where if, the overlap works, I was like, it's the ball's in your court, whatever you need to feel comfortable after I broke up with you, like,
Because you did do the, yeah, you initiated it.
mm-hmm.
That's I am very can we say his name or his name is remaining anonymous?
We, I mean, if you follow me, you probably know his name, but we'll keep it
We'll keep it.
anonymous.
We'll keep it. So anonymous X. We're
Yeah,
very proud of him for the maturity that both of you guys have gone
yeah.
into this with.
Because what we had was we do like each other, we like each other. So like we were like, we know that we like each other. If we're honest, we know all of these things don't line up. These things don't work out. Like we don't have the same necessarily outlook on life. Like just things it's like if we're moving forward down the same track, we're just like we're not parallel lines. We're like kind of we're diverging.
Right. So that was 3 years. And
Hmm.
definitely, I would say, like, flying colors, A+ for breaking up in such a healthy way. Was there a path that maybe used to be a bit of a different outlook? And what made, I guess, what were those breakups like? And then what made you change to come to this place?
I had a breakup. I think this was my second technical relationship on record. And it was, I didn't know it was coming. We were together for six
Mhm.
months. We hung out almost every day. We're both comedians. And now I never date another comedian.
That's, I was gonna say, like, full stop.
Mm-mm.
That's like the red flag that like waves
Hmm.
over. Yeah.
I learned my
Yeah.
lesson. I learned my lesson. And basically, what happened? Oh, wait, I'm getting like
You're
my
good.
my Siri was like, "Hey," um, but I'm
She's like,
oh,
hey, don't date
so
another comedian. That was your like
they were like, "Yeah,"
PSA
I was like, it
message.
was like, quoting me. I was like, "Oh my god," um, but basically, he broke up with me, and then like Loki, I didn't know this term at the time, but Loki like gaslit me about my own
Mm.
emotions in the experience, and he was like, "You don't like me. You've actually never liked me, and like." We're breaking up because you don't like me.
That's
And
how
I
you got
was
broken
like,
up with?
and that's how I was broken up with. In the cars in the passenger seat, I like started tearing, and I was like, I'm like confused. I was just confused. I was like, uh,
Wait, how long had y'all dated at that point?
6 months.
6 months, you said this. Okay.
Yeah,
So you're in the car, morning, nighttime, like where had y'all just left from? Like
we left
what
from like lunch.
and it
At the,
was, did y'all have a good lunch, or was it out of the, was it out of the blue, or
it was like a fine lunch. I don't even really remember the lunch, so I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary.
and
But
then he just breaks up with you?
yeah, and I was like, shell shocked. I was like, what? And then I felt like I didn't have like a space to speak on because I was like, you've already established how you think I feel in all of this. So that anything that I say will just be like gaslit and like, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You don't feel that
Against the
way.
grain without even knowing there was a grain being laid. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
we spent every day. I don't like people often. And especially like, I don't just like, I'm not just trying to like hang out with someone 24/7 unless I like them. So I was like,
Right.
the fact that
Right.
like 6 months of hanging out almost every day led
Oh.
you to this, I was like, okay, you know, not my monkey, not my circus anymore. I was like, okay, I was like sad. I called my friends. They were like, what? They were like, you never like
So
anyone. What the hell?
was the conversation just over at that point? Like you're like, okay, I can't say anything because, like you said, you've already decided this for me,
Yeah, I
and then
was
you
like,
got out.
well, I think you're wrong. Like, I was like, I
Okay.
think that you're wrong. I obviously like you. We spent 6 months together. We hung out all the time. Like, I'm not just like, I'm not trying to just like hang out with people I don't like, you know?
Right. And his
And then
mind
he
just
was
his.
like, no. He was like, no, you don't like me. You don't like me. And he said other things too, but like, I was just like, okay. And then I was like at my apartment and I was like, I guess I just get out. And then that was
This
it.
is where it was like an out of body experience of like,
Yeah,
this
I
is when
was
I
just
get out of the
like,
car
and
and
then
walk
like
to my
I shut
apartment.
the door. He drove away and I was just like,
What just happened?
what? Oh, my roommate wasn't home yet because she had a real job. And I was like,
I guess I have a few questions. I mean, one is like, did you know if he had done anything like this before, or if he had any
no.
other
I think he had a
assumptions? He
deep
just,
insecurity. I
yeah,
think he had a deep insecurity. And I think
he
that
was
was,
the self sabotager
yeah, I
clearly,
think it was a self
and
sabotage move.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think he was like, if I blame you, then I can break up with you and I can move on because maybe down the line I won't get broken up with or something,
It's like a protection, but it's
Yeah.
the oddest version of protecting yourself,
Yeah.
and in the most like obviously disconnected, unhealthy way possible.
Yeah.
That's wild. Did you know if he ever pulled one of those shenanigans again, where like, he was in a self roadblock?
I don't know. That was one of the things I was like block, delete, by
He was. Did you
we
ever see him on like tour or circuits or like
if he
comedy?
was our like comedy circles didn't really overlap too much. We both, took classes at Groundlings. We both had like mutual friends, but it didn't overlap
Well,
too much.
you
But there
weren't
was
still
like
in
a
the
couple.
classes, obviously, with Groundlings. Like it was
Hmm.
like a former thing. You were still in the class together.
Yeah. No, we weren't in the class together, but we were taking classes at the same school at the same time.
Were you
So like
always
we could have been
worried
in
you were
the
going to
same
run into
shows
him?
together. We could have like there could have been a lot of overlap. And there was a couple times where someone told me and I was like, okay, I won't go to that one or I won't do that show because like they're opening or like
That's so
whatever.
tricky.
Yeah.
Was
It
this
was
was
like,
this higher levels of groundlings as well, where like this is
yeah.
y'all's life and it's professional
Yeah.
groundlings essentially? Oh
Yeah. It was like
man.
the advanced. I think
Oh
we
man.
just got into the advanced
It's
section.
not like 101 and one of you drops out and takes the next session. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Oh no. That's intense. Did you guys
Yeah.
meet at groundlings?
We met not at Groundlings, but that became my whole friend group. Like if you do improv, you become friends with your class and then you make a bunch of friends. And that
Right.
became like the community, if you will. And so we would
Oh,
be at this,
absolutely.
we met at like a mutual friends party.
No. That's a rough one. That's a
Yeah.
rough one.
I was
So
like,
how did
I'm
you
never dating a comedian. So doesn't happen because I like the
that was
community
that was
and I like
your
performing and I don't want this to ever get in the way.
and you followed up with that. You followed through. It's never
Hmm.
happened again.
Never dated a comedian.
Wow.
I tried to date a singer. Well, no, I didn't try to date a singer. I went on 2 dates over the course of a weekend, hung out with his friends. I was like feeling out how I felt about him. It's like 2 days
Right.
in, and he's like, I really like you. And like, I like this. He said, I like this. Cause I was like, that's
I
such a
like
crazy, that's
I
so
like
like
this.
scripted.
I
And
like
then
this.
I was just like, I
Is
was like,
that a New Yorker in a rom com? I like this.
that's like my take back of all these stories. I was like, what is the best, like most cliche rom-com from New York that I could just like make almost like a perfect silly story?
Oh my
Reclaim that I
gosh.
like this. And
I
I was
like
just like,
this.
okay. And then he like left. I was like, I like you too. I was like, I'm having fun this weekend, but like it's two dates over the course of a weekend. It was like Friday and a Sunday,
Right, right,
you know?
right. You
And
don't
then I
like
was like,
people easily. We've established this.
yeah.
It's like you have to, yeah, yeah.
And it was like Friday, and then immediately hung out with like he was like, come to like we're down the street, like come to we're seeing these singer songwriters, my friends, and I like hung out with his friends, and so I was like, it was just like very hot, very like fast, and I was like,
Yeah.
I like you too. I'm obviously having fun, like we'll see, and then he calls me the next day and was like, after like pretty much confessing how much he liked me, was like, um, so I don't think we have a good connection, like whatever, da, da, da. And I was like, oh my God, he just like needed fuel for like a song.
Oh no.
I was like, what? I was like blown away by I was like, I was just coming to terms with that. I like, yeah, like let's, continue dating and see where this
Right, right,
goes.
right. He's like, you're like, oh, singer's X-nay as well, because like
Yeah.
the erraticness, I think, is just
It
it
was
doesn't
like
even
180, 180.
which is obviously not even on you. It's more of
No.
of an idea
And
that
it
it's
was
like
too quick that I was just like, okay, I guess no singers now.
you need you need like a PhD candidate, like one that takes like 11 years to get through school, that like really knows they want to be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the personality type. I am also of the PhD love language where it's not the flash in the pan one way or the other, because it's so jarring. It's not even against me. It's just like the environment is so chaotic and unhealthy
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, I have no offense to this. I just can't be a part of this. Yeah.
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 And just like I can't make heads or tails of like my emotions because it's just like
No.
so
No.
like
Oh my
versatile right
gosh.
now.
And then as far as the comedian goes, did you guys ever have that material like manifest to the stage, or was that fair game when you date a comedian, or is
I
there the
think
unspoken
so.
language you don't talk about each other?
I think unwritten rule is that it's pretty much fair game because it's your personal experience too. I mean, it's the rules of Taylor Swift. So
If it's the rules of Taylor Swift,
if it's the rules of Taylor
fair game.
Swift, then it's
I
just the
gotta be
rules.
honest. I'm not an anti-Swiftie, but my two best friends are massive Swifties, and I'm just sitting here on the like no man's land surrender line.
Yeah.
And is it like, my question is the Switzerland of the situation is, how does anyone want to date someone if they know it's going to be fair game? Like, how does that happen?
I
I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know. I truly don't know. That it's got to be, you got to get a lot of people who just want to be talked about, and
I
maybe
think
she's
that's a
written a song or
thing.
two about that.
I think that's a thing. Like, so
Yeah,
your ex right now, did he, I mean, he obviously loved that you were a comedian. Like, I'm sure he laughed. Like, and maybe it's a trade off. Like, you're going to laugh all day long.
yeah,
So that's the other side of it.
yeah.
I don't know, maybe
That's what I
there's
thought would
that.
be great going into it. Is like it's I want to. My goal every single day is to laugh. That's like if you're not laughing or finding ways to laugh or like finding joy in something every day, then like that's not necessarily the
Living.
ideal day I want to have. I mean, obviously, like I
Right.
have days where I'm not gonna laugh that day. I'm down and out. But it's always like find a way to come back to that. Find a way to come back to that. But
Okay.
the I feel like with comedians, especially if you're on the same level, it can be subconsciously competitive of like one of us is going to be the funnier one and one of us isn't. And
One of
that's
us is
just,
going to be the funnier one.
and that's just a
Right.
fact, like
I'm
it
just, I'm
becomes
just,
kind of
yeah.
dicey. And I feel like all comedians are a little bit insecure because you are basically just seeking validation. Like every
Right.
time you go anywhere, get on stage, and your currency is laughter. So if people
You
aren't
have to
laughing,
agree with me.
yeah.
Right.
If
Right.
people aren't agreeing with you and then therefore laughing with you, it's like you're automatically like they hate me and they wish I was
Right.
dead.
No in between. That's
You
just
know,
one
in
or the
between,
other.
you're just like so it
Right.
becomes like this fragile like experience. And I think like that's why two comedians can't date each other because you need someone to be like more grounded and have like
Hmm.
a sense of like self. And you can't
Absolutely.
both be like if you're both knocked down from like a bad show, it's going to be hectic.
I'm wondering, two people who are comedians dating, if there is only ego or if there's no ego. Because almost like maybe like you don't have an ego to go date another comedian, or is it like I would be interested to see like the ego
I feel like I do
scale.
know or have seen like successful comedians where they're both comedians and they're both in a successful relationship. And I feel like they leave their egos at the door and they just like
Right.
fan each other's flames. And I think that's like the healthy, perfect way to do that.
If you're gonna date another
Yeah.
comedian.
It's like being a scene partner in improv, not to like bring it back to more comedy, but it's like the best scene. The only rule obviously is yes but it's like if I'm setting you up for success, my whole job on stage is to set you up for success. It's going to come back to me and we're going to keep like passing the ball to each other,
Right, right,
And I
right.
think
I've
that
done
that has to
I've
like
done the
replicate in a
personal role,
relationship.
like the 101 of UCB.
Yeah.
And the one and funnily enough, I'm mainly a dramatic actor. And for like 16 years in, I was like, oh, maybe I should take an improv class. Maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I think like this is the moment I would say, no matter what you do in life, improv will always help you. Like business
Mm.
people in relationships,
I
like you're
think it is
saying,
the
like,
best thing you can do for yourself. Not even to be a comedian, not even to be funny. It cures your social anxiety.
oh,
It puts
it needs to be in global curriculums, like
it.
public, charter, private. It needs to be
Hmm.
homeschooling. Like improv needs to be a staple. It's like home ec. It should also be I believe in home ec
Literally,
and wood shop and improv. Like that's the school I'm building. If anyone
we're
wants to
probably
join.
both old enough to have taken how to type classes.
Oh, absolutely.
The
That little
beginning,
frog
I'm
game that
like,
you would like type and like the speed of words per minute. You were
they
like
had like
beating
the
your
proper
friends.
way to type with like your pinkies, and I was like, this
Yes,
is. I even knew better. I
yes.
was like, this. I'm just gonna type how I type, which is with two, maybe three fingers if I'm feeling crazy.
Totally, totally. But anyway, no, I just find it fascinating because I'm not a comedian, but I am like an adjacent business, as a dramatic actor mostly,
Yeah,
and you like think you can. I mean, there's comedy actors and there's like comedians, and even the comedy actors are like, oh no, 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 like the territory of a comedian is untouched. Like it's a different beast, and
it
so
is a different beast.
yeah, comedians dating other comedians. I love to pick y'all's brains, so thank you for humoring me.
Oh my god,
What would you
anytime.
say like the biggest lesson is so far in your dating career that you want to take moving forward?
The biggest, I mean, I really cherish alone time. Like,
Mm,
really cherish it. That's where I recharge. That's where I think. It's where I like internalize. It's where I like process the world, turn it into comedy. And I think in relationships, I can kind of lose that alone time a little bit.
mm-hmm.
And because I also like to hang out, I like to have fun, and I like to, laugh and, enjoy someone's company. And I'm realizing now specifically that I need that balance of like being in a healthy, functioning relationship and also having carved out like alone time where I can just like turn my brain off and not
Mm-hmm.
have to like just turn my brain off, you know? That's
Right.
like just not think, not do anything, and just have that like alone time where I can like process, you know, like go on runs without headphones. Like
Oh,
I
you're
just
a
need to find that
purist.
balance.
You're like alone time.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
I didn't think I was because I thought I was like I like being I never minded being alone, but I like socializing, like, you know, with people who charge you up. That's like the best thing, like my best friends.
You're the introverted. So I am of a similar mindset that people think I'm an extrovert,
Yeah.
and to some extent I am, but I have been in like 5 years of long distance relationships. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. I think I like my alone time more than I think I even know I like my alone time.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like people talk about the extrovert or you're an introverted extrovert or
Introvert to
extroverted
extrovert.
introvert.
Yeah. I
And
would
it's
say
like,
exactly.
there's this like weird splice of human that like literally can be 50-50. And
Mhm.
um, one without the other just doesn't work. And so, yeah, but when you're that 50-50 like rarity, people think you're the extrovert that doesn't need the internal time.
Yeah.
And
And
that's like,
then
couldn't be
it
further
can
from the
be
truth.
it can be like misconstrued that when you're not an extrovert, when you're not like Mr. Personality or Mrs. Personality, you know, that you're like
In a
not having a good
mood.
time, you're not like
Right.
you're in a bad mood, or like you're off and something's wrong, we have to fix it. And it's like, no, that's
Right.
part of me too. That's part of me too.
Right.
That is
It's
why I
finding someone that gets both of that truly. Right.
yeah, because it's
Right.
like the balance. It's like you got to charge to. I just need that balance. Like striking that balance
Right.
is harder
I
than it should be.
It is. And I think that that's good for people listening because I never thought of myself as an introvert, and that external validation or confirmation of like, oh yeah, you're an extrovert. And like something didn't feel right. But then I was like, oh, I really think I'm an alone but not lonely person, 100%. Even though I
Yeah.
really do enjoy social situations, it's like you
Yep.
said, it's people
Exact
that
same.
I don't do small talk that easily, and so
That's improv.
that
That's
can
what
drain
improv's
me.
for.
True, that is true. Um, I love that improv is so. We've talked about this in one other podcast because we had one of the founders of UCB as a guest, and
Okay.
I really love that relationships are such a metaphor for improv and vice versa.
Yeah.
The yes
It,
and.
it literally made my like it cures social anxiety. It cures it because once you bomb on an improv stage, that's your worst fear realized, and you're like, wow, I'm still alive on the other side of it. Like actually, like maybe I cried in the car on the way home, but like I'm actually okay.
That's part of it too. That's okay to
Yeah.
cry. You should cry on the car on the way home.
Yeah, that means you're
Yeah.
trying something and you're putting yourself out there and you're in a really vulnerable state, and that's where the good stuff comes from, you know?
Well,
That's
when
like
you
why
break your
you
leg, you
become.
put a cast on. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
That's like what I would think of is like, you're going to need that come down. You take it.
Yeah.
You get in that car and you cry. You have not healed if you didn't do it. You didn't bomb hard enough if you're not crying. That's how you know.
Mhm. It means you didn't really try that hard, you know?
And if
You
you're
kept
not really
yourself
upset for
safe.
that breakup, you didn't really try in that relationship.
Mhm.
I'm telling
Uh,
you, the metaphor goes deep with improv and relationships. That's why I get so excited. I'm like, oh, this person. I mean, I actually, do you think that I would even go as far to say as you subconsciously were learning about dynamics and relationships in improv before
I
you
think
say you're an amateur, have only 3 serious relationships or 2 serious, or this is your first serious relationship technically.
yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
I would argue that you had way more training than you give yourself credit for.
I would say that now looking back on it, like reflecting on it, I would say that improv is the reason that I was able to have a healthy breakup kind of right now, because it's like understanding social dynamics, and you know, it curated kind of like a healthy discussion versus like an emotionally charged one.
Right, right. So alone time's your biggest takeaway. And then what do you want to do differently in your next relationship? Or are you looking for a next relationship? Are you like, I'm the third throuple for life?
Right now, the idea of being in a relationship is so far from my mind. Couldn't be further. I mean, obviously I like just am still like coming down and processing.
Mhm.
And like once I'm in my own space, I think that's when I'll be able to fully like, you know, take my head up from like looking at my next step and like can gaze into the future. But I
Right.
am so far the alone time is what I want to get back to. So I'm just excited to like, your longest relationship is with yourself. And
Hmm.
so you need to nurture that. And that's what my next step is, just nurturing that like relationship with myself and just, you know, visiting friends. I don't know, like just curating that
24
type of,
hours in a day gets to become yours again.
yeah, exactly.
What I
I'm
love to
not
say.
like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
What would you
Hmm.
say as, I mean, breaking up after lunch and like pretending you're the problem is pretty bad. What would you say you have a crazier breakup moment, not even breakup moment, but just relationship moment or relationship story that will comfort people going through wild experiences right now?
I have the only other one that comes to mind is I was in another like 6, I think maybe 10-month relationship. We had like been officially boyfriend and boyfriend for like several months at this point.
Okay.
But it was, I mean, we were both, I was in LA, he was in Palm Springs. So is that long distance? Kind of. Like, I don't know.
It's an LA normal commute, long commute
Yeah.
for other people. Yeah. Yeah.
and and there was, it was going great. And so he was like, I was like, well, what are you doing this weekend? You know, we're like chatting on the phone. He's like, I'm going to go on a hike like tomorrow morning. And then I don't know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So then the day comes and I'm like, hey, like, hope you're enjoying the hike. Like, let me know how it was after. And then he was like, ooh, just got back to the trailhead. Like, it was great. Sent me pictures from the top of the hike.
Hmm.
And I was like, great. And then at this time, we had shared each other's locations, which was the first time I've ever done this on his account, on his accord, not account.
Right, right,
Um,
right, right, right.
and so I was like, let me look at the location because I want to see what hike he did. Like, I just was like curious to the hike situation because
Right,
I had
right.
never like had someone's location. This was, I think, the beginning of locations. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not like 80, but it's like when email
When
started.
the dove delivered the
Yeah.
letter. Yeah, yeah.
And he was home. He was home. And so I was just like, there's no way that
The
he,
time that he could have gotten home.
yeah. I was like, there's no way because he said he was hiking like at his favorite hike, which was like hours away or something.
Oh, it was like a day thing.
Yeah. So it
Okay.
was just like a weird red flag. And I called him out immediately. And then he like kept sending pictures from the hike. And I was just like,
Wait, he kept sending pictures after you called him out?
no, I was like, so are you at the hike now? Like, who'd you hike with? Like, I was trying to get like more specifics. And he was
Hmm.
like, yeah, he's like, me and like my friend just hiked and we like are at the trailhead now. Like, basically, like, we're just getting back to the car. We're going to go for lunch. And I was just like,
What?
okay. I was like, reminder, I have your location.
What does he say?
And then he immediately caves. He's like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! I'm sorry. Like, I don't know why I do this. Like, I don't know why I do that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I do this sometimes. And like, I don't
Oh
even know why I do
no.
this."
Oh no.
So
Oh
I was
no.
just like, okay, so like, what do I do with
Like
this? Like, you're
what's with the lie? Like what's the
what
purpose of
is the
that?
point of this lie? And he was like, I'm not up to
Right.
anything. Like, I'm not up to anything. Like, I just like, I just, I'm home. I'm just home. I'm home, which is like where the location was. So I was like, oh, okay. But like, that's such a weird, specific thing to lie about for
Does he
no
like
reason.
bank one hike and he wants people to think he's more interesting than sitting at home? So he's like going for a hike today and like
That,
pulls from his one hike like album.
yeah.
Like I'm so confused.
Yeah. But we're in like a relationship for months now at this point. There's like,
Like there's no reason to like even front that.
yeah,
Even if
there's
that
just
was
no
your
reason for that.
oh
And so I
no.
was just like, what do I do with this? Talk to my best girlfriends. And they're like, maybe he's a pathological liar. Like, we were all like trying to diagnose the situation. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm going to just I'm going to
Yeah, I
retract.
was like,
I was
I'm
like,
bowing out.
this is, I
But
don't
that's
want
the
to
best
stick
thing I
around
think
for the next
to
time.
do. I think like, yeah, like that's the best lesson he could learn is like that behavior is not acceptable in
Yeah.
adulthood. And
Yeah.
it's even scarier if it's for no reason. Like it's even harder to
That's what
diagnose.
that's what I was like, I almost wish it was something.
Yeah, you were like, I wish you were hiding something because then it
Yeah.
would be easy of like A equals B. This doesn't equal anything.
I
This
was
is
like,
not
now it's like
mapping.
we're in like I don't know land, you know? I'm like, that is
Yeah,
it,
it's like it's even creepier, weirdly
it,
enough.
yeah. So I was
It's
just like,
like,
I was like,
yeah.
I'm out, I'm good. We tried. I was like,
Did he take it like Roger that I understand?
no,
Or
he
was he
really was like, no, like I promise, like I won't do it again. Like I won't do it again. Like I'm sorry. Like I really, really, like I don't. It really was
well,
nothing. Like I
that's even
really,
deeper. That's even worse.
I literally was. It was like he
Mm,
was like, it was giving pathological liar. Like it was giving
yeah.
like word vomit of like, I, I can't believe I was the first one that ever caught him on anything like this, you know. But
You think you were the first?
I feel like it was giving like the first time he's been majorly caught. He did have another story that I'm not going to share
Okay.
that my gut had a red flag of.
Okay.
Can't really get too into it just
No,
because
but
it's personal
if
to him.
that relates to, it's
Yeah.
like,
And so
when people show
then
you
this,
who they are, believe them.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So then the second time
Mm-hmm.
happened and I was like, I don't even want to dig into this well. Like, I don't know
Right.
what it's to find. I'm
Right.
gonna bow out, you know. And it was like through gritted teeth, but then eventually it was like, okay, yeah, we're
The
broken up.
hardest part about relationships is when you get to know someone and it's just so interesting when there's like such a curveball that has nothing to do with you. And you're just like the investigator that happens to find it all. And you're like, what's happening? And I'm
And
somehow connected to this person now.
I literally was
Mm-hmm.
like, you wanted to share locations. And I'm like an open book. I'm like, I don't, yeah, see, you can say,
Right.
you know, if, I also think it's fun if it's like, you know, you can like see that I'm like doing a show. You're like, ooh, how'd the show go? Or, you know, I
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know.
connection thing. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
It's a
like,
way
it
to.
was no sweat off my back. And I'm like, for you to want that and then immediately forget that there's like a trail of breadcrumbs.
There's
I
enough
think
there,
now, I honestly
unfortunately.
think it just made him probably a better liar. I don't know if it really solved,
Mm.
you know,
Oh no.
anything.
Well, then regardless, it was good for you to, you made the
Yeah.
right decision, obviously, to
To
protect
about. But
yourself.
if you got to trust your gut, if there's red flags, if anyone's lying, I think if anyone's lying about something, it's just the tip of an iceberg, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's
A good girlfriend of mine found out there was a cheating situation. Feel free. I think feel free to use this in material. Um, One of the most interesting ways where the lie did make sense, but it was crazy, was her fiance decided that they wanted to get a smart bed. And the smart bed apparently like tracks your heart rate throughout the night, your blood pressure. So, and then you get a
oh
recap. Oh, I
my
know. And she's a
gosh.
flight attendant. So she was on a job,
Mm-hmm.
and we know how that story ends. It's like
Mm-hmm.
your heart rate this morning, but it spiked at 2 a.m. and now it's back to normal.
And it's
Like
just like,
literally showing the trajectory of activities in the bed and this
oh
woman's
my
blood
God.
pressure.
Having a
And so
chart of this,
having a
having
chart of
like
the
a
cheating
graph of this
activity.
is crazy.
Yes. And she found out her fiance was cheating on her from the smart bed that
Oh
the
my
fiance
God.
suggested they get. And I thought I had never heard of that one. That was a first.
That's
And she's
really
like,
good. That's gonna,
what?
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
that's good.
And
That's
she,
just
yeah.
good.
Yeah. And she was like, I forget what she texted the fiance, something like, heart rate related. But
Yeah.
yeah, that the smart bed told her like that's the future. If AI doesn't scare you, AI should scare you with that story.
Yeah.
Um, that
It's
technology is going to let you down, like
technology
or
does not have your back. It just has the
I was
facts.
like, or does it that
Yeah.
like we cannot outsmart it's only going to make it more complicated.
Have you seen there's like commercials for like invest in AI and it's like basically it starts off like a horror movie about AI and like the AI like locks this woman in. She's like, "Oh my God, like what's happening?" And then it's like, horror music and then it immediately she's like, "What?" And then she's like, "Oh, I forgot my protein shake." She's like, "Oh, thanks." And then it's like AI isn't scary. And I was like, you did not help your scenario. You just
You did
showed us a
not have
visual
yourself
of what people are scared
panic
of,
room.
and you want us to now invest in it. It's like invest in AI, and I was like, this is who cleared this?
What focus group did this pass?
I was like, who
Yeah.
cleared this? That didn't.
It's
I'm not like, oh yeah, let me invest so that it can lock me in my
remember
house
my
and remind me
protein
to take my
shake.
protein shake.
You can't leave the house yet. Oh yeah, I was like, I don't want to be held accountable. I'm on, if I want to go, drive through that fast food restaurant, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Wow. Yeah, the unnecessary lying is definitely a huge red flag.
Yeah.
That's an
It's
absolutely
just, yeah,
yeah,
especially when it's about nothing. I'm like, this is the tip of an iceberg clearly, and I do not need to waste my time finding out
right,
all of the ways that you're wrong for me. Like I
right,
got it. I got it. You
right.
showed me who you are. I'm going to believe you immediately.
Believe it. You don't need to yes and that.
Yeah.
and,
I'm going to
and
know
what's
about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna know about that. I'm gonna know goodbye that. So what would you say, like, what best advice would you give going forward? Because people, like I said, listen to this usually when they're going through a breakup or a loved one's going through a breakup. So what best advice would you give at this point in your life?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, again, I'm going to double down on your longest relationship is with yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
have to trust your gut. You have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that who you are throughout the course of your life is in like a straight line, and it can get a little wobbly, a little wiggly, when you're in relationships that don't fit you. And those are all learning tools for you to just get back to your like homeostasis and like your truth, if you will. And I think that as long as you nurture that, you will know when a relationship isn't working for you. You will know when a relationship is working for you because you will
Mm-hmm.
be your most authentic self in the relationship. And I think that is the ultimate goal of a relationship, is to have like a ride or die, and you are just exactly who you are. I have like a best friend who is in a relationship, and has such a big personality, and she is exactly who she is. She's
Mm.
exactly who like she always has been, and like is such like a good like visual aid for me, because I'm like, that is it. Like there's someone for everybody. There
She
is.
doesn't change whether
It's
the partner's in
yeah.
the room or not,
You
right?
do not have to become the version of yourself you think they want. You have to be the
Mm.
version of yourself you are, and
Or
they
even the
will want
version
that.
you think you want. Like you're like,
Yeah.
but I want to be more type A. I want to be
Yeah.
a person who always wears makeup all the time. But if you're
Yeah.
not that person and you're going to even front that partner by wearing makeup when you really are a person who wears a lot of makeup, or is
Yeah.
a person that gets up early when you really don't want to get up early, or yeah.
Yeah. It's like everyone's like on dating apps, everyone's like, I love to hike. I love to be outdoors, and I love to hike. And like that's like I'm like, how does everyone like to hike? And yet there's no one on the hike right now, Like
There's no
everyone
on the
wants to
hike
hike.
right now. Oh my Lord, that's so funny. Yeah, I would love to like get behind like this myth of hiking. Like, what is up with the hiking?
What is
Um,
it? It's just for, I mean, in LA, it's for the picture at the top.
I think it's I'm low maintenance, but I'm also outdoorsy.
Yeah.
And again, fronting who you are not.
Yeah.
It probably means you're really high maintenance and you're not outdoorsy. That's what
Yeah.
hiking actually means
Especially if your
in
clothes
LA.
match and are clean, you probably don't hike all the time.
Or I went for a 5-mile run and makeup is perfectly intact.
Yeah. Hmm.
You're like,
And like
mm-mm,
hair is like still perfectly curled. You're like,
mm-mm,
how?
mm-mm, mm-mm. I mean, even with these girls with like 3 sets of hair on their head, I don't still buy it. Mm-mm.
It's
Yeah.
dating in LA is
Oh
I couldn't
gosh,
imagine.
it's really tough.
It's I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine. It's just because
I
everyone's a different version of themselves in every room they walk in.
I
That's
think
like
I
I
think
lived there 6 years, and I was like, I found all my core group of friends, and I was like, we're all from the East Coast. Is that like, how did that happen?
I think that the one blessing of Los Angeles is the geography, and that the west of America is so diverse,
Yeah,
and the geography, if you really are outdoorsy on any
it's
level,
perfect. Yeah,
it's an amazing outlet, and there's so many amazing cities in the west within an arm's reach of Los Angeles. Like that's the pro of Los Angeles.
yeah, I
Aside
would
from
agree with
like,
that. It's like one
if you
hour
like,
from skiing, from apple picking, from
it's
a
9 hours
farm.
from Moab. It's
Yeah,
like Oregon
a
is right
desert.
there.
Hmm.
Wyoming and Idaho have so many, and Montana. Like it's not that far of a drive,
Yeah,
and you still have the ocean like close by.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the pro of Los Angeles. That's the only reason I'm still here. But as far as the dating goes, I think it's sad. It's a blanket statement to say LA is a certain way, but LA is a certain way. You know, that's not to say that you can't find the outliers, but it is harder. I think
there's always outliers, but it's
harder.
Even with New York, it's
is.
like it's other extreme. It's like, you know, living in both places. I was like, is it just impossible to date? It's just impossible to date. It's impossible to find someone you really like, you know? And then when you do, you know it, and you hold on tight.
You hold on really tight. Believe me. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very true. Well, thank you so much for like all your advice. And is there any words of wisdom? I mean, I think you already have summed that up in, you know, maintaining your best self and staying true to your best self. And
I think
not
it's your
fronting
gut.
who you are.
Always know. You always know. You know, if you start questioning things, it's because you know something different, and you want to force yourself to believe something else. And if you just stick with your your first thought, which is what improv also helps with, you're supposed to just go with the first thing that pops into your brain, and you just start workshopping that muscle, and you get that stronger. And that's why, like, I think I'm trying to be very intuitive to like my first gut instinct. And I think once you have that lockdown, you can't be thrown too far off course.
Totally.
In a relationship.
Totally. I mean, I think it's interesting that, wait, you just went away. What is wrong with my life? There we go. Told you, I am technologically illiterate. Everybody knew this before we started. No, that's so, you need to write a book. I mean, someone in the improv world needs to like connect these officially, because I don't know if they've officially been connected.
We need like a psychologist and like comedians, and we need like red string.
Yes. There is somebody missing the boat here. I am not the qualified individual to do this, but I'm barely qualified to do this podcast. But I do
discussions. That's the best part. It's like, it's such a human experience. Love is the most human experience. I think that's, you know, we're all here for. It's probably the most interesting thing to talk about, you know, because
I find it fascinating. And like I said, the beginning of this is like the stigma around breakups is still so deeply ingrained, at least in our society.
Yeah.
I know there's a group in Africa that celebrates divorce, and all the women, when they get divorced, women gather around, are like, we're going to beautify you for your next chapter. Yeah. And they really
They're like, it's celebrate. A new beginning. I love that.
They have full on divorce parties. Like it's not just like, we're going to make a sad thing happy, put on a happy face. It's like actually a celebration.
Yeah. It's like, we're experiencing catharsis right now. Let's go. Let's like change your trajectory.
It is the best hocus pocus stage ceremony you could ever ask for. Like, it is a real thing. And I wish I knew the group of people, like what nationalities people are, where they're from, but it's on the continent of, And I remember reading this, that these women, I want to say it was somewhere in the north of Africa, that they celebrate divorces like it's Christmas here.
That sounds like a party I want to be at.
I think it's so that's why, you know, we wanted to at least open up the conversation that love is obviously such a big industry. Dating apps, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so breakups are sort of this like ... go find a therapist and lean on your friends. That's kind of all there is. Improv.
You got to
talk
about
in relationships.
It. Yeah. And do improv. The takeaway is do improv.
Do improv. And go with your gut.
And go with your gut. And you'll fall in love like that.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us where can we find you? What do you have coming up?
I am at D Michael Burke, my name pretty much, on TikTok, Instagram, wherever else. I think that's the two. I just have more videos coming down the line. I think I'm gonna do another rom-com very soon. So I'm always up to something. I'm doing improv on my stories. If you watch them, it's always fun. I'm trying to bring the joy to every single day.
And work on the book of improv and relationships.
I'm gonna start connecting those dots. Honestly, I could talk about improv like for hours and hours. I feel like I've put 10,000 hours in. I feel like I'm an expert. I'm obsessed. Yeah. I will.
Yeah. I will buy that book. I'll be the first person in line for my signing. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
UnCoupling podcast is produced by Stampede Ventures, Jason R. Ellis, and Holland Roden.